So, a few weeks ago, Echo of Wisdom got announced for the Switch. And whenever I was personally looking at the trailer, it reminded me a whole lot of, the Super Nintendo classic, A Link to the Past. A game that was for probably many old-time Zelda fans, one of their first exposures to the Zelda series. So, I just thought it was very, very interesting that it looks like the same setting, but they very, very clearly has changed some things for anyone who knows anything about A Link to the Past. And so it got me thinking, is it being set in this sort of similar yet different setting going to help enhance the story at all? Or is it just going to make people that much more nostalgic for the original Link to the Past? Echoes of Wisdom will be a different game, as it will be the first official game where we play as Zelda. However, that is not the only change we see. From the announcement trailer, we saw how the kingdom looked very similar to the one found in the Super Nintendo Legend of Zelda game, A Link to the Past, but there were things also in the trailer that were either not in the older game or just completely changed. Now, A Link to the Past is a linear plotline, as there are areas that you cannot get to or complete a dungeon unless you've completed the one beforehand. And, the example that I can think of off the top of my head is you have to get the mitts from the second temple before you can even get to the third temple that's up on down Death Mountain, because there are rocks blocking your path to get up there. However, it appears in Echoes of Wisdoms there's not going to be such a limit as that. Both games seem to be about saving the people of the Kingdom of Hyrule. In A Link to the Past, your goal was to go through and not just save Princess Zelda, but you are also going through and saving several maidens that were related to the sages that created the seal over the Sacred Realm, and whenever the Sacred Realm got turned into the Dark Realm by Ganon. In Echoes of Wisdom, there are these rifts into strange worlds all over Hyrule, and not only do they take Link, but we see in the trailer that they're taking other citizens of Hyrule. So, we don't know. Is this another manifestation of the Dark Realm, or is this going to be a completely different realm like Lorule was in A Link Between World? We don't know right now. So, in A Link to the Past, the main character Link, he gathered all kinds of tools in his journey, but certain tools had to be used in order to get to certain places. If you didn't have that tool, you couldn't get to that place. But it looks like in Echoes of Wisdom, Zelda's not going to have that limitation. So long as she has an echo that can be manipulated in such a way that she can get across something, that's going to be what we end up doing. The Tri-Rod is the tool that she ends up with, and like I said, there's various types of echoes that we saw in the trailer that can be used for both exploration and for combat situations, and if you just know how to manipulate it or set it up right, you'll be able to get past those challenges that in A Link to the Past, if you didn't have the right gear for, you just weren't going to get through. There's also new places in Echoes of Wisdoms that are not in A Link to the Past, or they've somehow altered them. The main example I can think of is, again, going back to Death Mountain. The Death Mountain that we saw in the trailer looks very similar to the one from Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. But in A Link to the Past, it was actually more to the right in the trailer. It was basically that, snowy area that was in the trailer. So, are they just expanding the Death Mountain range and the volcano and that area are considered Death Mountain? Or are they going to rename that snowy area that was originally Death Mountain to probably Hebra or something to kind of keep it more in line with the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom? There's also the desert area. In A Link to the Past, all it had in it was monsters and temples. I think there might have also been a tablet where you could get a special item, but you didn't need that item to complete that game. It just made it, sometimes easier to take on different opponents, but you didn't need it. But in Echoes of Wisdom, it looks like we have the Gerudo back, and they have a town, because we see Zelda kind of sort of sneaking into it for some reason. So this is going to be interesting because, are they going to be set up as the Gerudo were in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, where they knew they know that they have a connection to Ganon, but they're not 100% sure how or why they have a connection to Ganon anymore. Or, you know, is even the spear something related to the Gerudo? Or, you know, is the spear just some new item that Ganon crafted for himself? We also see that there are now 2 types of Zora. This has been suggested in other games, but we've never seen them interact with each other. In A Link to the Past, we only had the River Zora, and most of them would attack you, other than their king. Their king would sell you flippers. In Echoes of Wisdom, it looks like we have the River Zora, and then we have another group that in the Oracle games were called the Sea Zora, and they look a lot more similar to the Zora that we have seen in like Breath of the Wild, Ocarina of Time, more similar to the Ocarina of Time ones, but they seem friendlier and they seem to be more like fish-like than amphibian-like, like the River Zora look like. They kind of look like oxalotls, not gonna lie. So from the announcement trailer, it looks like Zelda might have to somehow end a dispute between the two. And, you know, it could be that, you know, these rifts caused some sort of problem between the Zora and they're both sort of blaming each other for it. Or, you know, maybe something that was sacred to one group got sucked into the rift and now they're blaming the other one for it again. We're not really sure, but I can see that there's going to be an beach area because we have the Sea Zora, and with the sea you have a beach. So we'll be able to explore a beach in this game, which there were no beach in A Link to the Past. And I'm definitely looking forward to exploring that whenever I play, because it's going to be like a completely different new area. Which, if you're interested, I'm going to be playing this game live whenever it comes out. I'm going to be streaming it here on this channel. So if you want to see me play through the game and, you know, see if it, you know, has like, yeah, a linear plot line to it, or if it's, you know, going to be more open like Breath of the Wild is, subscribe now, so then that way you don't miss out. We also have the Great Deku Tree back in the Lost Woods. In A Link to the Past, Lost Woods was literally that. It was just like a bunch of tunnels and mazes that you had to wake your way through. But it looks like the Great Deku Tree is here again, and he wasn't there. And in fact, there's only like a handful of games that I can think of where the Great Deku Tree was a thing. Now, in the Oracle games and Link's Awakening, there were similar, you know, entities, but they weren't the Great Deku Tree. This looks straight up like the Great Deku Tree. And it looks like there's just going to be so many different things from some of the other games coming in here, like potentially things from Link's Awakening, the Oracle games, which I've already mentioned. And it feels almost like they're trying to make it feel more similar to Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, so then that way people recognize it as a Zelda game who may have only played Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but still have elements from the older game like A Link to the Past, so then that way more veteran players like myself don't feel like, you know, it's, you know, just a rehash of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. It will have familiarity for us, so then we are, you know, going to be more comfortable in the world. So Echoes of Wisdom looks like it's going to be a very interesting game. Although it may seem like a familiar realm, as I just mentioned, there's going to be obvious changes made to it, and it will make it more exciting. It will make it... New things will be there to explore. Like, we have the Gerudo Village, we have the beach, we have a completely new Death Mountain that, you know, technically is new, but is not. And they're, like, remaking the old Death Mountain into Hebra now. I'm looking forward to seeing what all is going to be in this game. And exploration is probably going to be a much bigger part in this game than necessarily it was in A Link to the Past, because again, if you didn't have the right gear, you couldn't necessarily go into certain areas. But such obstacles aren't going to be a problem, and you can probably solve them in a bunch of different ways. Like, you know, they gave you the option in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So it looks like they might be new relationships that we can observe as well in this form. So it'll be interesting to see how everyone enjoys the game. I'm super biased, I won't lie. I'm probably going to end up enjoying this game one way or another. And we get to play as Zelda. Like, this will be the first official time we can play as Zelda. So, yeah. You know, I'll talk to you all later, and I hope you'll join me for the stream later. I love you all. Have a great day. Bye!